Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. So we'll start off by reading Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrit. So Abhay Prabhu, please can you share the screen?
Krishna Mati, you have to unshare the screen first.
Okay. Okay, that's done.
So is it visible, Mataji, now?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. You can read it from the next day. That is the point we have to start from.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The next day, in the quiet afternoon, Prabhupada was sitting in the living room, chanting on his beads. Upendra was with him, and Kirtanananda was in the kitchen cooking a feast. Suddenly, Prabhupada heard the familiar ringing of cymbals and became very happy, his eyes widening. Looking outside, he saw the Rath Yatra truck with Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, and Balaram, and dozens of devotees and hippies eager to see him. He went out to greet them and had them bring the deities inside and set them on top of the upright piano. Devotees and guests followed, filling the large living room. Smiling, Prabhupada embraced some of the men, while others made obeisances at his feet. Some devotees helped Kirtanananda in the kitchen get ready to distribute the large feast he had prepared. Others reported on the success of the Rath Yatra festival. It was great. It was wonderful. It was a beautiful day, they said, and Prabhupada listened, moved by his disciples' description of the celebration. Many hippies had joined the large procession. Mukunda, Haridas, Hayagriv, and some of the women had been on the cart, and the instruments, including Yamuna's playing on the harmonium, had all been amplified. Everyone in the streets had liked it. The police motor escorts had tried to hurry the devotees, but so many people had crowded in front of that parade, had been obliged to go slowly, just as Swamiji had asked. Subal had danced wildly the whole time, and Jayananda had been jumping up and down, playing kartals. From the truck, some of the women had handed out cut oranges, apples, and bananas, and others had thrown flowers. The crowds had loved it. Shyamasundar told how they had been going up a steep hill. Shyamasundar had been driving with his dog Ralph beside him on the front seat when the truck had stalled. He had tried to start the engine, but couldn't. Then the brakes wouldn't hold. The truck began rolling backward downhill. Oh dear. Finally, he had managed to stop. But when he had tried to go forward, the engine had stalled. and the truck had rolled backwards again. He would get it started, the truck would go forward, then stall, then roll backwards. Everyone had been in anxiety. At last, the truck had started forward, and the procession had continued all the way to the beach. So really nice reading. Every time, we see how they went through struggles. They never had the best in terms of vehicles and what have you, but they still were so involved in devotional service, so nicely trying to please Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen again, just with the slides. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Yes, Mataji. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. So we will do our pranams. Om Jnana Timirandhyasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Janananda Goswami Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimata Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunivadi Pashtitaya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyayavacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we are going to be reading from Canto 4, and it's titled Narad Instructs the Prajetas, and the shlokas are from chapter 1. The shlokas are 25 and 26. So we're looking at 4, 31, 25, and 26. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll start reading our shlokas. So the first one, 25. Etate bihitam shatar yanam tvam pariprastavan prachetasam naratasya samvadam hari kirtanam. Etate bihitam shatar yanam tvam pariprastavan prachetasam naratasya samvadam hari kirtanam. Etate vihitam shatar yanmam tvam pariprastavan prachetasam naradasya samvadam hari kirtanam. Would anyone like to recite?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm trying.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Etate abhitam shatar janmam tam pariprishtvan prachetosam naradasya samvadam hari kirtanam. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Etatte vihitam shattar yanmam tvam pariprishtavan prachetasham narodasya samvadam hari kirtanam.
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Mataji, I am also trying.
Thank you, Mataji.
एतत्ते विहितं सत्तर् यन्मं तं परिपृष्टवान् प्रचेतसां नारदस्य संवादं हरिकीर्तनं. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Would anyone else like to recite? Okay, so we'll move over to the synonyms. Would someone like to read the synonyms, please?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Etat, this, te, unto you, abhihitam, instructed, kshattaha, o vidur, yat, whatever, nam, unto me, tvam, you, poriprishtavan, inquired, prachetosam, of the prachetas, naradasya, of Narad, sambadam, conversation, harikirtanam, describing the glories of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Would someone like to read the translation and
Yes,
purport?
yes, Mataji, I can read.
Thank you, Mataji.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear Vidura, I have told you everything you wanted to know about the conversation between Narada and the Prachitas. The conversation describing the glories of the Lord. I have related this as far as possible. Small purport I can read. Srimad Bhagavatam describes the glories of the Lord and his devotees because the whole subject matter is the glorification of the Lord. Naturally, the glorification of his devotees automatically follows. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
So much, Mataji. I see somebody is decorating the slides. Thank you. We're getting a decoration. Okay, so we'll move on. We'll do the second one as well, the second text as well. If it allows me to. Okay, so Sri Sukha Uvacha. Ya Isha Utana Pado Manavasyanuvam Itaha Vamsa Priyavatasyapi Niboda Nirpasatama. Ya Isha Utana Pado Manavasaya Nuvam Itaha Vamsaha Priyavratasyapi Niboda Nirpasatama. Ya Isautana Pado Manavasyanu Vamitaha Vamsaha Priya Vratasyapi Niboda Nirpasatama. Would anyone like to recite the shlok?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I'm reading.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sri Shuka Uvacha Yaesha Uttana Pado Manavashanu Varnitaha Vamsha Priyabrata Shapi Niboda Nipashattam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Shri Shuka Uvacha Yayesha Uttana Pada Manavasyanu Varnitaha Vamshaha Priyabratasyapi Nibodha Nripasattama. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sri Shuka Uvacha Yesha Uttana Pada Manavashanuvarnita Vangshaha Priyavartasyapi Nibodha Nripasattama. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Shri Sukhvacha Yesha Uttan Pado Manavasyanuvarti Varnitaha Vamsa Priya Vratasyapi Nibodha Nripasattama.
Nice. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So if there's no one else to recite, can someone please read the synonyms?
Shri Sukhvacha. Shri Sukdev Goswami said, Ya, which Yesha, this dynasty, Uttanpadaha, the king of Uttanpad, Manavasya, the son of Swambhu Manu, Anuvarnitaha, described following in the footprints of the previous acharyas. Vamsaha, dynasty, Priyavratasya of King Priyavrata, Api, also Nibodha, try to understand, Nipasattama, O best of the kings. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. And who would like to read the translation and purport, please?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
The translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, O best of kings, King Parikshit, I have now finished telling about the descendants of the first son of Swayambhuva Manu, Uttanpada. I shall now try to relate the activities of the descendants of Priyavrata, the second son of Swayambhuva Manu. Please hear them attentively. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj was the son of King Uttanpada, and as far as the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj or King Uttanpada are concerned, their activities have been described up to the point of the Prachetas. Now, Sri Shukadeva Goswami desires to describe the descendants of Maharaj Priyavrata, the second son of Swayambhuva Manu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So just the translation to text 25 again. My dear Vidyura, I have told you everything you wanted to know about the conversation between Narad and the Prachetas, the conversation describing the glories of the Lord. I have related this as far as possible. So today what we try and do is first try and glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. That's really an impossible task because we know that Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna, and if Krishna is unlimited, Srimad Bhagavatam is unlimited also in terms of its glories, right? But we will try to the best that we possibly can to give some, share some knowledge on that. So we find that in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, it is stated that the Srimad in 12, 13, 16, that Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of the Puranas, right? Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among deities, and Lord Shambhu, Shiva, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all the Puranas. Now we find that in the Puranas, there are 400,000 verses, and 18,000 of these verses constitute the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right. And this Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all our Vedanta philosophy. But now we find that when Srila Vyasadeva, who is actually the literary incarnation of Krishna, had compiled all the Vedas, you know, we know it was such a great accomplishment. This was such a big task to take on. But still at the end of it, he was so dissatisfied. And so Narad Muni, who is his spiritual master, pointed out to him that the essence of the Vedas was missing. Lord Krishna was not being glorified. People were not being taught how to serve Krishna. So devotional service was missing. So people couldn't develop that mood of service, that love for Krishna. So understanding his intention, Srila Vyasadeva, who is, you know, he was in the maturity of his knowledge, composed the Srimad Bhagavatam. And here he speaks exclusively now about devotional service. So, yeah, I thought that slide was nice. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is unique in that it is transcendental to all the mundane activities and all the mundane knowledge. And it enables us to actually transcend these three modes of material activities: the fruitive actions, speculative philosophy, and worship of functional deities, you know, as is mentioned in the Vedic verses. And the other special thing about the Srimad Bhagavatam is that it is emanating from the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. So we know that when he speaks, these words are even sweeter. And as it is coming down the parampara to us, we have our acharyas and Srila Prabhupada giving us so many commentaries and purports. So we know that this knowledge is now more digestible for us. They're making it easier for us to understand. So from the Srimad Bhagavatam, we are actually learning pure devotional service to Lord Krishna, who is our supreme personality of Godhead. So Srimad Bhagavatam, in the previous slide we had, it is the essence of Vedanta philosophy, and one who takes to it seriously and sincerely won't be attracted to any other literature. We know there are so many other religious or spiritual books that are available. But when one takes to the Srimad Bhagavatam is complete. It has everything that we need to know. And it helps us to attain our goal of Krishna Prem as well. So when Lord Krishna actually left this material world, when he departed, knowledge and religious principles went with him. So that pretty much left everyone with no hope. I mean, what is going to happen? It's total doom, right? But the Lord is so merciful. He left the Srimad Bhagavatam for us, right? And it is said, just as how the sun rises and the sun is brilliant, right? After Lord Krishna had departed, the Srimad Bhagavatam had come to dispel the ignorance and the darkness from our lives. So here in Srila Prabhupada says in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.340, as God is all light, all bliss, and I can't read the top part because it's blocking here. Okay, and all perfection, so also is Srimad Bhagavatam. So being the transcendental sound representation of the Lord, it is the full representation of the transcendental knowledge and religious principles. So that means this hope has returned, right? So since Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna, by hearing, reading, studying Srimad Bhagavatam, we associating with Krishna. Look at the opportunity we have. You know, most of us may not have that quality of associating with Krishna, but here Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us that opportunity to associate. And from the Bhagavatam, we are learning about the Lord's beautiful form. I mean, there are so many descriptions about the Lord's form. And we find in other sectors, in other religious or spiritual sectors, they are unable to describe what God looks like. If Lord Krishna had to appear before us, we would be able to recognize his form, right? He is so beautifully described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we find that each canto corresponds to the different parts of his body, right? So we know this. This is going to be a refresher. So please let me know what do his lotus or what do cantos 1 and 2 represent? Anyone?
The lotus feet of the Lord.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. And what about 3 and 4? So 3 and 4 represents the thighs of the Lord. And Canto 5 is the navel of the Supreme Lord. Going up to 6, it's the chest of the Lord. 9 is his throat. 10 is the lotus face of Lord Krishna. And the rasas are his smile, isn't that so? And 11 is the forehead of Krishna, and 12 is the head of Lord Krishna. So we can see how he is represented in all the cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he is so merciful in that he's given us this highest benediction, and he's empowered the saintly persons like Vyasadeva to describe his pastimes. So we are very fortunate to have all the commentaries and to have Srila Prabhupada's purports, because it helps us to navigate easily through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then as soon as one attentively listens, so not just listen, but to listen attentively and submissively, when we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, then by this culture of knowledge, the Lord is established within one's heart. That's how powerful the Srimad Bhagavatam is. Okay. So now that we have this great fortune that is so actually easily accessible to us, what do we have to do to take advantage of this great mercy? What do we have to do? So just think, we've got the Bhagavatam, and you're all doing it. I just would like other voices as well, so you don't get bored of my voice. We all have the Bhagavatam. What do we have to do? Everyone's quiet. The first thing is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, studying Srimad Bhagavatam. It is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 113 translation that considering all this patient and submissive hearing is definitely essential. With great respect and attention, one should receive the message and lessons imparted by the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can see how this hearing, the Shravanam, is such an essential aspect. I was listening to a lecture the other day, and it mentioned a very famous Bhagavatam speaker, and he was going to give Krishna Katha for 7 days. Now, he wasn't just having a few people in the audience. He had 45,000 people in the audience. But here, with him on the pantal were 3 giant dolls, okay? And the speaker just continued as he usually did. He did his bhajans and he did his pranams. But the people, their interest was actually just focused on the 3 giant dolls that were on the pandal as well. They were really curious. What are they there for? So when the speaker had finished his pranams, he said, yeah, I can see that your interest and your attention is on the 3 dolls. Now I'm going to tell you what these 3 dolls represent. He says, each of these dolls represents one, would represent you as well. So he had an assistant, and the assistant went to the first doll. And what he did was he put a stick through the ear, but that stick was jamming. It just wasn't going in. So the speaker said, 90% of you are like that doll. You sit here, but you are not listening. The information is not getting in through your ear. So then the assistant went to the second giant doll, and he tried to push the stick in. And then before you know it, the stick went through that ear and out through the other ear. And so the speaker said, now some of you are like this doll because the information goes in and it comes out. So there's no retention of what is going on. And then the assistant went to the third doll. And when he put the stick in, it easily went in and he couldn't get it out. And so the speaker said, this is what we need to be like. We need to listen attentively, take in the information, we retain that information. Now we know, just as I said earlier, this information, this knowledge that we're taking in allows us to undergo a transformation of our heart. Okay, it is allowing us to move from that material platform to the spiritual platform. With time, we'll have a change in our behavior, change in our words, our attitude, our behavior. That's the power of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we see that this speaker has basically, he's telling people how important it is to listen attentively. And we are so fortunate in that we have this Bhagavatam class every day online. And it is not much effort to just, link onto the class and listen. And with this listening, it will help us to undergo that transformation. It is helping for the development of our Bhakti Lata Beach. So by understanding this, through that listening process, we would also be able to share this with others, because we can only share with others if we understand it. Then only can we share effectively. We can't be miserly with this good fortune that we are getting. A lot of people out there don't know the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is our duty, our responsibility to share the information that we have. Would you like to share some ways in which we can share the Srimad Bhagavatam with others?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, we can ask people to join in the Zoom class.
Yes, so that's really,
Encourage them.
and I think ISKCON Auckland is so good in that, we get those links coming on every day, so there's no excuse, isn't that so? So yes, so joining the online classes, joining the classes at the temple, people that we meet to share the knowledge that we have. And of course, when we look at our audience, we will tailor-made the way we present this knowledge to them. So it depends on what their ability is to take in what we're giving them. And the other thing is distributing Srimad Bhagavatam. So sometimes we may say a few words to a person, and as we listen with the dolls, it goes in one ear and goes out the other. But if they have the Srimad Bhagavatam set with them, they can read it whenever they want as well. Right? So it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam in 12, 13, 18 that anyone who properly hears and chants it with devotion becomes liberated. Okay, so here again, we're seeing the potency of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I want to share a nice story, and this is from Mahabharata. It's on Dundakari, and a lot of you are aware of the story as well. So I'm going to try and give a shorter version just in the interest of time, yeah? So Atmadev and his wife, Dundali, they had all the material pleasures, but something was missing, and that is they did not have a son. So he desperately wanted to have a son, and one day he met a sage, and he expressed his desire to have a son, and the sage said, for 7 lifetimes, you are not going to have a son, so better you just take to chanting the holy name and serving the Lord nicely. But Atmadev was actually distraught. His only desire was that he wanted a son. From Srimad Bhagavatam, we know Chitraketu was like that, isn't that so? He wanted to have a son. So anyway, the sage gave in, and he gave him a fruit. And he said, you take this fruit and you give it to your wife and ask her to eat it. And she needs to follow the rules of truth, cleanliness, compassion, charity. And she needs to eat just once a day for a year, and then she will conceive a son. So Atmadev took the fruit and he gave it to his wife, Dundali. Now, Dundali, on the other hand, she had another agenda, right? She did not want to become pregnant. Becoming pregnant means she was going to be weak and not well nourished. And then having a baby, oh my dear, a baby meant selfless service. So she didn't want to inconvenience herself. So Dundali had actually revealed her heart, basically, or her mind to her sister, who actually happened to be pregnant. And the sister made the suggestion. She told Dundali, how about I give you my baby, and in exchange, you give me money? So they thought, that's a good plan. Dundali can just, act as if she was pregnant. But when this baby was born to her sister, she could have the baby. But there's still one more issue. What about the blessed fruit that they got? And then Dundali's sister said, oh, that's easy. You just give it to the cow. So everything went as planned. And in due time, the sister had a baby. And Secretly, Dhundali had taken the baby, and Dhundali had given money to her sister and the sister's husband. And Dhundali had then told her husband that they had a baby boy. So Atmadev was just ecstatic. This is what he has been waiting for so long. And even the villagers were so happy because now Atmadev had a son. So Dhundali named this son Dhundukari. Now, after some time, the cow had given birth to a boy. So not a calf, a boy. But this boy was unique. He was absolutely beautiful, but his ears were like that of a cow. So Atmadev named this child Gokaran, right? So after his ears. So Gokaran was born with the blessings of the sage because remember, the cow had eaten that blessed fruit. So Gokaran was actually very calm, he was very pious, and he was a learned Pandit. He was very polite and he was pleasing to everyone. Everyone loved him. On the other hand, Dhundukari was unclean, rude, and he had many bad habits. And he was a thief. So when he used to play with children, he would act like he was playing with them, but he ended up killing them. That's how bad he was. And he took pleasure in seeing other people suffering. So his parents were so distraught and they were so embarrassed with the way he was. And Atmadev couldn't take it. So he went into the forest and set out to meditate. So now Dhundukari was at home with his mother. And not having the father's rule, he started to ill-treat the mother. He tormented her. He would ask her for large sums of money. And he would say if she didn't give the money, then he will take the rod from the fire and hit her with it. Eventually, the mother dies. So now Dhundukari is left alone and Gokaran goes to the forest because he is equipoised, right? He goes to the forest to meditate. Dhundukari gets 5 prostitutes. And now these prostitutes could see that Dhundukari was getting so many riches because he was stealing. And they thought, if he is going to be arrested, we're going to lose all of this. So better we just go and kill him. So these 5 prostitutes tied him up and they tried to strangle him and he wouldn't die. So then they put hot coals in his mouth and through that pain, he died. So Dhundukari became a ghost and he was very unsettled. He was wandering all over. And Gokaran eventually heard that his brother had died. And he did the Shraddha ceremony and he did everything necessary, you know, thinking that it will set him back on his path back to Godhead. But Dhundukari was just wandering around and one day he came to Gokaran. But of course, Gokaran could not see him at the time. And he was haunting Gokaran. So Gokaran sprinkled some water on him to allow his sins to be alleviated. And then in this way, Dhundukari told him the story of what had happened. And he says, please help me, save me from this. So what Gokaran said was, I'll have to ask the people the next morning. And so he asked some very knowledgeable people and they said, you pray to Surya Bhagwan and Surya Bhagwan will guide you as to what to do. So he was told to read the Srimad Bhagavatam for 1 week, just like the way Parikshit Maharaj had heard Bhagavatam for 1 week. So Gokaran organized it and the villagers had come for it and Dhundukari came, but because he was in that ghost or pret form, he went into a bamboo and the bamboo had 7 knots on it, right? So each day as he heard this recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam from Gokaran, Dhundukari moved up a knot. So in other words, he was getting liberated. He was moving up a knot of that bamboo tree. Eventually, Dundakari was released, right? And he assumed a very beautiful form. And the Vishnuduts came in the Viman to take him away. But then, interestingly enough, the other villagers were not taken. They were all sitting as well and listening. So this question was asked to the Vishnuduts, how is it that everybody was listening? And it appeared that they were intensely listening, but only Dundakari is the one who is going. And then the Vishnuduts explained that Dundakari was the only one that was listening attentively. Yeah. So the other people were like, the other two dolls where not the information, the words going in and coming out on the other side, or nothing going in at all. So in this way, Dundakari was able to go back to the spiritual world. And Gokaran had actually spoken the Srimad Bhagavatam again to the villagers. This time, they listened attentively. And by listening attentively, they were able to get the same result as Dundakari. So this story actually tells us one about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So we see just by listening what happens. And it also tells us how to listen, that we need to listen attentively. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in 4:11, Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stateva bhajami aham. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So we've got to do our bit as well to get the desired results, right? This Srimad Bhagavatam, the glories I just described as a strong boat that will allow us to easily cross over this ocean of birth and death. Yeah, that's its power. So we know that the Prachetas had also heard about the Lord, and also by listening to the knowledge about the Lord, Srila Prabhupada mentions that this is a sure and certain way that anyone who always hears the glories of the Lord and thinks of his lotus feet will go back home, back to Godhead. And we know this is what happened to Parikshit Maharaj, right? So for 7 days, he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. He heard with great attention, and he asked very good questions, which we are benefiting from. So this hearing is the foundation for our bhakti, right? So Srila Prabhupada spent many nights and days translating the Srimad Bhagavatam. Even when he was in the last days of his time here on this material world, he was extremely weak and he was so emaciated, right? And he continued dictating the purpose of the 13th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami could see the difficulty that Srila Prabhupada was going through, and he suggested to Srila Prabhupada to stop. Why are you continuing with such strenuous work? You're in a state now where you can just, relax in a way. But Srila Prabhupada had replied. He said, even if a good soldier who serves in the army of the king is struck down on the battlefield and his head is severed from his shoulders, still, even if he's lying on the ground in such condition, if he is a good soldier, he will try to wave his sword in the air with the hopes that he will somehow strike the enemy. Srila Prabhupada continued to say, similarly, I am a servant in the army of my Guru Maharaj, and as long as I have life, I must preach, even in my present condition. So look at the sacrifice that Srila Prabhupada had went through. He didn't need it for himself. He's assured of his path back home, back to Godhead. But he has left this for us. That's the mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord, isn't it? And even Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, one who has life can preach. So we can see how precious the Srimad Bhagavatam was to Srila Prabhupada. We've got easy access to it. And it's our good fortune, really. You know, we need to read it, study it, but we don't need to be miserly with what we get. We need to share it with others, as we had discussed earlier. It's just surprising how many people don't know about the existence of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm also talking about Indian-bodied people. Right. Okay, so it is also mentioned in the second sentence of that translation to today's text 25, that glorification of the Lord, once that happens, then naturally the glorification of his devotees automatically follows. So devotees are glorified, right? We find like Prahlad Maharaj, if we read the chapter or the chapters in Canto 7, we find more of the chapters are actually linked to Prahlad Maharaj and discussing his glories instead of Narasimhadev. So Narasimhadev allows his devotee to be glorified. So in Bhagavatam 5:18-12, it is said, in one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna, all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods are consistently manifest. And Prahlad Maharaj was praised for all the good qualities that he had. And then we have the story of Vritasura as well. And we find that Vritasura was, he was a demon physically. His physical appearance was that he was a demon, but inwardly he was a devotee. So a devotee in a demon body. So we know how he was actually preaching to Indra whilst the battle was going on. And Indra actually called him a Mahabhagavat, right? And then there's the story with Bali Maharaj, right? Here again, we know that Vamanadev, the Lord, has everything, but he asked his devotee, Bali Maharaj, for 3 steps of land. The Lord didn't need that. But this whole pastime actually highlighted the glory of his devotee, Bali Maharaj. And then also in Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, is the story of the Brahmana's wives. We know how the Brahmins were doing their yagna, and when Krishna and Balram's friends went and asked for some prasadam, they didn't give them. They were busy feeding the yagna with all the food. And the Brahmana's wives, on the other hand, when they were approached by the friends, they very readily gave prasadam. They knew who Krishna and Balram were, because who did they hear from? They heard from the people selling flowers. They heard from the people selling betel nut. They heard from the ladies in the Vrindavan village. Just by hearing, they could understand who Krishna was, and they loved him. So they showed what a pure devotee would do, and not the Brahmins actually doing all the ritualistic service. All right, so I just want to say a little bit on the next text. We are 20:08 now, so let's see how we go. So in the next text, we're looking at the lineage pretty much, looking from Uttanapad right down now to the Prachetas. And we know from Brahma came Swayambhuva Manu, and Swayambhuva Manu had Priyavrat and Uttanapad as sons. And Uttanapad had 2 wives, Surichi and Suniti. And from his wives, he had Uttama and Dhruva as their children. So we find that, you know, it seems a little bit interesting that Uttanapad's lineage is being described first. And now after this, Priyavrat's lineage is going to be described. And the question is, why is this so? So basically what had happened was, Priyavrat was actually more interested in meditation. So he practiced austerity from the beginning of his life. And because there wasn't anyone else to take on the kingdom, Uttanapad had taken on the kingdom. So this is why his lineage is explained first. But when Uttanapad had left, Priyavrat had to take control of the kingdom. So when Priyavrat was asked to come, he did not want to take control. So then actually Lord Brahma came and said, this is a responsibility that you have to take on. So we find that this lineage here is also very glorious, right? We've come across so many great personalities that we can learn from. Look at Dhruva Maharaj, right? He renounced everything eventually and he went to the forest when he was a Maharaj. But when he was a child, he underwent so many austerities. And I'm not going to go into the details, but just to, some learning from that is the determination that he showed. And then when he was leaving to go back, when the Viman had come for him, he never left his stepmother as well. So his mother and his stepmother came along with him. So he never held any grudges to her, which shows that he forgave her. So he teaches us forgiveness as well and humility, which is so important for us to embrace in order to become a Vaishnava. Yeah. And then we also have Prithu Maharaj. We know, how he was trying to do the 100th Ashvamedha Yagna. And Lord Indra was coming in and disrupting that because he didn't want that yagna to take place because his position will be taken over. But in the end, Prithu Maharaj, we know, was stopped from doing that yagna by Lord Brahma. And he listened, right? So you can see his humility in that. And towards the end of all of this, Lord Indra actually offers his obeisances to Prithu Maharaj. So we find here how Prithu Maharaj didn't just kick him away. He still accepted him. He still was compassionate. He wasn't holding any grudges as well. So we can see the forgiveness, the humility in Prithu Maharaj, and his dedication in taking care of his people with humility. He never threw his authority, so to speak. Yeah. And I'm just going to be mindful of time now. I also want to say a little bit about today being Christmas and wanting to acknowledge Jesus Christ the way Srila Prabhupada has given us. So I just want to read what Srila Prabhupada has said. He says, who will not respect Jesus Christ? He sacrificed everything for God, even his life. So who is that rascal that he'll not respect to Jesus Christ? What did he do wrong to the human society? He did everything for the good of the human society. Oh, I have got very, very great respect for Lord Jesus Christ. Not only every, I mean to say, God-conscious man, he must respect for Jesus Christ. There is no doubt about it. My Guru Maharaj had very great respect for Muhammad, Jesus Christ. So this was a conversation by Srila Prabhupada on June 28, 1974 in Melbourne. And Srila Prabhupada says that Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. Haridas Thakur was caned in 22 marketplaces. But still, they showed compassion to the people that were attacking them. Even Lord Jesus Christ had said, forgive them, my Lord, for they don't know what they are doing. And imagine he was put, and I'm not going to describe it because it's so, it's quite hurtful what had happened to Jesus Christ. So Srila Prabhupada says a sadhu is tolerant and kind. And we find that in Haridas Thakur, and we see that in Jesus Christ as well. So these are all great devotees of the Lord. So I just want to conclude by saying, we've discussed basically the glories of the Lord and Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the representation of Lord Krishna. And we also discussed the devotees who are automatically glorified because they are following the Lord so nicely. And one who sincerely and seriously hears about the glories of the Lord and his pure devotees is assured a ticket back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I'm just pleased that I finished on time. If anyone has any reflections, please share.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna. Thank
Krishna.
you very much for the very nice class and bringing out the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is none else other than the Lord Himself in the form in the form of a book. And when Krishna has left this material world, when he last appeared on the Dapur Yuga, after that he has left it. And in one of the questions, one of the answers to the question of the saints or the sadhus in the Naimisharanya, it was told by Suta Goswami that, and it was asked, what is the place of dharma once Krishna has left this material world? Then it was told that he has taken shelter in, the religion has taken shelter in Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is none else but Sri Krishna himself. So Srimad Bhagavatam, if we read Srimad Bhagavatam from a proper devotee, and we, as you have also pointed out, that it is same as associating with the Lord personally. And there are two types of Bhagavats. One is the person Bhagavatam, and the book Bhagavatam. The book Bhagavatam is the incarnation of the Lord, and Bhagavats are those who follow the Bhagavatam in their personal life. So we should hear Srimad Bhagavatam from them who carries the message of Srimad Bhagavatam in their heart, in their life, personal life. When we hear them, and it grows in affinity. And in Srimad Bhagavatam also, in Canto 1, Chapter 2 and verse 16, it is very nicely written also that when one hears the message of the Lord from such a pure devotee, then it grows affinity in his heart for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and it purifies it, and gradually he becomes completely pure of material contamination. And in this way, he can progress further for going back to the Godhead. And it is a definite way of going back to the Godhead. If we hear from a devotee or a real Bhagavat and Srimad Bhagavatam. So you have very nicely pointed out that one. Thank you for that. And this is the only thing we can take shelter in the present day, when there is people are so much attached to material contamination. So if we hear Bhagavatam regularly, and we can be rest assured that we can go back to the Godhead if we seriously hear it and clear our mind. If we seriously hear it, it will automatically clear our mind, and we can go back to the Godhead. Certainly, there should be no doubt about that. That is the message Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us. And thank you for bringing that point to all of us. Once again, thank you once again for the nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for what you have said, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dharma Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for very nice exposition and glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. One of the things we encounter when we start listening to Srimad Bhagavatam is that people say they have got the audio or whole Bhagavatam is on the internet. They would just want to access it. So they would rather not pay for the price.
That's right. Yes.
So what is there a difference between reading the printed Bhagavatam or just looked through the internet online Bhagavatam? Maybe
So,
we can share
very
some
nice
reflections.
question. Nice question, Prabhu. So we find this applies to the Bhagavad Gita as well, or any of Srila Prabhupada's books, where people, when you do distribution, they go, oh no, let me take a photo of the book and I'll check online for it, But what they are actually missing is having, as we explained, each canto represents the different parts of Lord Krishna. Having Srimad Bhagavatam at home is like having the deity of Krishna at home. And by just looking at the Srimad Bhagavatam, by just touching the Srimad Bhagavatam, one is getting blessings, right? But when we read it online, we are not quite getting the same benefit as what we would get with the actual book Bhagavatam. So this is where people need to understand that having the Bhagavatam in the form of the book is more powerful spiritually than someone just reading. Of course, there is benefit when someone is reading, off the internet and what have you. But if someone wants even more benefit, then to have Srimad Bhagavatam in their house. And this Srimad Bhagavatam, even if they decided not to read it, but it is just in their house, it brings blessings in that house. That's how it is, because it is, as I said, having the deity of Krishna in their house. So trying to get people to understand that, though, may not be as easy, but we try. We try. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji, for very nice explanation and clarification. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Okay, if there's nothing else, we can actually.
Well, one more inquiry.
Yes,
This
Prabhu.
the Dumbi Katha you narrated, where it is mentioned, which reference? I had this before too, but I never got to know where it's mentioned.
Sorry, which one, Prabhu?
The the Katha of Dundubi and Gokaran that you
That's the
mentioned.
Mahabharata.
Oh, it's a Mahabharata. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very nice story, actually, just to highlight the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and attentive hearing. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I used to hear this quite often from His Grace Gurdas Prabhu.
Yes.
And so many times, but I never tried quite what is the source. Thank you for clarifying this knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, if there are no other feedback, we'll close here. Thank you, Mataji. Vancha kalpataruvesha.
Devacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namo. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, हर ग्रेट शारदीय माता जी की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल. All glories to assembled devotees. Thank you, Mataji, for your nice class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.